In 1991, the legendary designer Massimo Vignelli, and if you don't know Massimo Vignelli, you probably know his work from the New York subway to American Airlines to tons of other timeless work. He said this in his exhibition: "In the new computer age, the proliferation of typefaces and type manipulation represents a new level of visual pollution threatening our culture. Out of thousands of typefaces, all we need are a few basic ones and trash the rest. So come see a few basic typefaces." And Vignelli was so famous for using, mostly for all of his works, all of his clients, just 6 different fonts. And so in this video, I want to familiarize you with those classic 6 fonts so that you can use them and you can become a legendary designer yourself. Let's rock and roll. All right, so let's get started with Vignelli's classic 6 fonts and then what are they good for, how to use them. The first one is called Garamond. This is a very, very classic, what's called old style serif. So these are coming back from, the Middle Ages, and this is kind of a new version of them. And these fonts are very, very classic looking, and they're good for tons of things where you need to look smart, right? They're being used in books, and so they represent kind of these old wisdom, and you can see them from, the old Apple Think Different campaign to the old Google logo. Everybody that wants to look smart has been using Garamond. You can use it as well. I think it's default on Windows, and Google has on Google Fonts an adaptation of it as well. So anytime you need to look smart, consider using Garamond. The next font is Bodoni, and Bodoni is kind of a French font that was coming out in the 17th, 18th century, and it was commissioned by this, I think, this aristocrat French to be designed for him. And this is kind of an extreme example of when there is a very, very high contrast between the horizontal and the vertical lines of the font and the horizontal line. And this really creates something that looks very, very premium. Actually, Massimo Vignelli said that this font, Bodoni, is actually the most elegant font ever designed. And if you actually look and everything that tries to be fancy, right? All of the vogue, the fashion, everything that needs to look super, super elegant, those are all variations of the classic Bodoni font. So if you need to be elegant, if you need to look sexy, make sure you check out the Bodoni family to look premium and elegant. The next font is called Century Expanded. I have to tell you the truth, I've never used Century Expanded in my design for any reason. However, this is one of the most kind of readable fonts throughout history that's being used in all of the different books and magazines and stuff like that. Actually, I read that the American Supreme Court said that all documents submitted for the Supreme Court has to be set in Century typeface just so that it will be easy for them to read. So if you're laying out a bunch of text, if you need it to be super, super readable, make sure you check out Century Expanded. The next font is, we're moving in from sans serif font into modern serif fonts, is Futura. Futura, I have to be honest with you, this is my personal favorite font ever. If I had to choose just one font to live with forever and do all of my design, no matter what project it is, no matter what, I would definitely choose Futura. It is my personal favorite. It comes from 1930s, this kind of like Bauhaus area where they try to be very, very functional and rational about how they're designing everything. So this is a fully geometric font. You can really see this in the O, where it's like a complete circle and all of the shapes are, again, very geometrical, very kind of logical and rational. I love this. Check out all of these different logos that were made with Futura. I mean, look how diverse this is. If you can create like a skating company and Red Bull logo with Futura, but also like Dolce & Gabbana and Banks and Domino's Pizza, like everything is possible with different variations of this font. I think it's super, super versatile. And again, my personal favorite, I just love the geometric shapes and I really, really love this font. The next font is Times New Roman. You've probably heard about this font. You've probably used this font. It's probably the default font in whatever computer it is you're working, since I think Microsoft installed it as a default. The story of this font is basically it was commissioned by the Times, the Times magazine, when they wanted to kind of make their magazine look better, looks fresh, look more modern and more readable. And it was designed for them. Now it's super popular. I'm not going to show you an example because it's basically everywhere. It kind of looks like default to me when you see it, the default serif font, but it's still very good and very versatile. And the last font is Helvetica. You've probably heard about this font. You've probably used this font. This is really, if I told you that Futura is versatile, this font is really the font that's everywhere and has been used for everything. It's probably the most popular font ever. By the way, I do not know what the Harley Davidson example is doing here. This is what came out when I wrote Helvetica examples. However, if you haven't seen, there was a super great documentary about the history and use of Helvetica and why it's such an amazing font. Go Google that, go watch that full documentary. If you're into design and you like type and see how that really impacted our culture and Helvetica specifically, because it's so prevalent. GM, I see, is also not using. Google is doing bad work resulting images for my queries today. Anyway, go watch this documentary about Helvetica. It's really great. Now, I do suggest you own and have all of these 6 fonts in your computer installed so that you have something to fall back on whenever you start a new project. What Vignelli said is actually true. We're wasting so much. Basically, his thesis was the reason that we have so many fonts today is because people want to make money. So they create fonts so they can sell them. It doesn't mean that they're high quality. It doesn't mean that we can use them. It doesn't mean that they're going to be helpful for you. And so if you don't want to be overwhelmed by so many choices, if you want to start off with something that's been proven to work, and that the fact that it's been proven to work doesn't mean that your designs are going to be old or they're going to look like something else. All of the examples that I showed you show you how all of these classic fonts can be used in a super versatile and creative ways to create whatever it is that you want to create. And it doesn't mean that it looks old or out of style or whatever. So I suggest you get started with them before you run off and try to invent the wheel with fonts that have not been proven so far. I hope you found this video useful. If you do, make sure you like this video so YouTube knows this video is good for you, and subscribe so we can see you more on our channels, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.